welcome everyone. Such an honor to have you all here. My name's Eileen Osgener. I'm founder of Bask, and I just would like to talk to you about the vision. It's about reimagining the world the way it can and should be. We love the land, we love land, but there are a lot of people out in the world that aren't they're not aware of how important land is. They aren't conscious yet of the necessity of land. And so we want to wake people up to this. We want them to come to Bask and see the plants that are growing and to feel safe here, because feeling safe is paramount for anything, for creating, for feeling better, for feeling free. And so I also bought 24 acres 4 miles down the road, and organic farming took place there. So we will have food production, mostly food production on that property. And then I bought 80 acres 2 miles down from there, and we'll be restoring her back to the grasslands that she originally was. And I envision some people living there too, but these things will evolve over time. But I just a few years ago really just became more and more aware of how important it is to me to be able to have land and restore land, and to see wildlife coming back, and to see these beautiful plants growing. And so I think it's going to be a beautiful space for people to come and remember how much land means to them, because that's been lost with technology. So many people are disconnected now and have forgotten how important land can be. And we see it disappearing in Nashville more and more, which can be heartbreaking. So I see lots of opportunities for people to learn how to restore land. I see it as a big business opportunity for people, instead of mowing lawns, to learn how to plant and garden and bring the plants back to life. Planting trees and learning how to restore land properly, which is so vital. I've been feeling this hunger in the world for transparency, for vulnerability, for authenticity. So much of it has been lost, and it's confusing. Like, we don't know what truth is in many ways anymore. And so I really want to get to the roots of what's important here at Bask, which to me is integrity, first of all. It's so important to be in high integrity, which is truth, right? It's being honest. And that's so important. My team hears me talk about integrity a lot. And that's why we take every acre, we consider every single acre here. We're not rushing to restore the land. We're trying to figure out, okay, what does this acre need here? How can we help her? What about this acre? So we've really been taking very intentional time with this in the process, because we want to restore correctly based on the different regions. And, I shared my story on the Bask website, which was not easy to do, but I felt that I have to give an example as a leader here through transparency, authenticity. So I was very vulnerable and shared my story that led me to Bask and to why I wanted to create Bask. So it's very heartfelt, but I feel good about that because I stayed in integrity again, and I feel that the world needs that, and that we all want that, because we feel safe when we know what's true. And so we'll have some fun programming here. We're going to have what we call sort of journeys, but there'll be packages here. And many of them are the names of plants. And they'll each have like an element of play, because as adults we forget to play. And so it's important that we have fun, right? So we'll have fun with it, but also it's going to be about reciprocity. And I use that word a lot because it's teaching people, okay, we take from the land, we can take this plant and make medicine out of it, and we will be doing that. We'll be teaching people how to make medicine out of plants, for example. But then how do we teach them to give back to the land? We teach them to plant, right? So each of these journeys, there'll be planting classes where we teach them, because a lot of people haven't put their hands in the dirt and planted anything. I mean, the majority of people have not. And to ask them to go and start planting when they get home is not likely unless they get their hands in the dirt and have the experience of planting. So that is very important to us here. So that is an example of the reciprocity that we will have people experience while they're here in the journeys. And so also there will be making things out with their hands. So woodworking, for example, it's very important because we've been using technology so much that we're able to use our hands. So woodworking will be very popular here. People will be making indigenous flutes, for example, and learning how to play them, bird houses, bee boxes, all sorts of things. And so it's very exciting who is showing up that wants to be involved in these workshops and classes. But we're going to get people back to sort of getting back in touch with their bodies, themselves, and off of the electronics. And this will be, for guests, limited use of electronics here. We'll be taking electronics so that people can really be with themselves in the nature here and feel good about it. We'll have trails and walking trails and hikes, just meditations and lots of different modalities, experiences for people. But it's a way to get people to get to know themselves better, which I feel is so important, to get to know ourselves, to get to know our authentic selves. And so when we feel safe, we're able to take our armor down. And that's sort of when we get to get a taste of our true essence and who we are. There are times we need to be like the Black Panther and learn things on our own. And then there's times that we need to lean into the buffalo. And the buffalo has beautiful meanings, but one of them is community. This is so beautiful, but buffalo, what they do is that they circle the weak and the elderly, and they protect them. And they don't leave any of their herd behind, which is a beautiful example of loyalty and devotion and love. And so it's important for people to learn how to be in community together. And we have to be able to trust each other. And again, that comes from a place of being authentic, being ourselves, and feeling comfortable to share whatever needs to be shared and to ask for help at times, because there are times that we all need help. And I also think of like a piano, when you think of the notes of the piano, but if a piano isn't played, it goes out of tune, right? And then someone has to sit down and tune each note, and each note needs some attention. It's sort of like, I think of it like our emotions, because as humans, we have a lot of emotions. And if we neglect our emotions and how we're feeling, then if we're repressing them, then we get sick, right? Like we have problems. We have mental illness. We get diseases. And so if we can pay attention to these notes, to these emotions, and just let them be and let them go, feel them, feel safe to feel them, then they go on their way, and we're not repressing or holding them in our bodies anymore. And so these are things we just want people to get in tune with themselves, to get in touch with themselves, and to feel better and whatever and however they can, and to support everyone who comes here. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the programs here, but even with finances, because there's a lot of greed out there, I have to say. And it's nobody's fault. It's just that we're taught, okay, make more money, right? That's what we're taught. But the truth is, we don't need to keep making more money and more money and more money. We just need to be happy with our lives and with ourselves and with what we're doing. We have to enjoy what we're doing. And there are ways, like people, and I'll be talking to people that come in, people with money who will be coming in, about redirecting some of their finances. Like they can put them in more sustainable programs, for example. A lot of them just give their money to the brokers and say, hey, invest the way you know how, and they do that. But there are sustainable programs now that these businesses and agencies have. And so encouraging them to be conscious of where they put their money and just looking for more sustainable businesses to put their money in, I think will change some of that pattern out there and create new patterns, right, that are healthier, that will be supported because it's for the greater good. It's the right thing to do. So there are many things like this that are coming to mind. Ways to work with people and influence people, very gently influence people to think about these things, so that we can help our lands. We can help wake people up to the importance of our lands and to take care of them and to, honor them. In honoring them, we honor ourselves too, because we take care of each other. And so these are some of the things that I hope to wake people up to. And we have a great team here. Our team is just a very integrous team. And that's where it starts. Again, it starts with the root of integrity and being true to who we are. So, and also we want to help people get out of their boxes and explore more and just feel comfortable to imagine a world of timelessness. I mean, when we enter that space of timelessness where we totally lose track of time, I mean, to me, that is the magic. That's like the inner peace, right? Like, you lose track of time, you don't even think about it, and then it's like, and it feels so good. And to me, that is the essence of Bask. So thank you for being here today. We appreciate having you. Tyler's an incredible artist, and he's going to talk a little bit, but I saw Tyler's work, and we have an artist residency program, and so I was like, Tyler, you need to meet Nigel, who's in charge. He's over there, photography, artist residency, and so I'm just like, well, Tyler, why don't you come and make some furniture here for us, some outdoor furniture? And so he has been here. And I just said, make whatever comes to you. I'm trusting you. You're such a great artist that I'm trusting your vision. And so he's taking wood that's found on the land, wood from dead trees, and he's using it to make furniture. So the Roots cabin can sleep 5 people. We've got 4 beds in here. And the designer who you'll meet, Emily Heron, who's at the Buffalo Lodge, she and I work very carefully together, and I'm all about color. Like, we gotta have color everywhere. So she helps, like, I get excited and she's like, okay, we gotta make this, gotta make sure it's cohesive. She's like, cohesive, like, okay. So a lot of it is vintage. I'm really into vintage. And so we have a vintage couch. You're welcome to come in.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't been here since June when it was 104 degrees. And this house was then under construction, and we kind of walked back in this ravine to seek refuge from the heat. But so out here we're looking at a few things, and some of them are a little bit new to me. I'm going to have to familiarize myself with. It looks like you got some sedges, which I love. Sedges are a great addition to especially woodland gardens or under a shade forest setting. And so here there's at least 2, maybe 3 species. Yeah, I see 3 species of sedges. This one with the bluish leaves, there's this one here, a little bit narrower. This one with the very fine foliage. There may be even a 4th species. That kind of mirrors what you would see in the woods out here, because usually about the last of April through the first week of June, this ravine here would probably have somewhere close to 8 to 15 or 20 species of sedges in there, just growing and tucked away, these little tussocks. I can't tell what the shrubs are right now, Eileen. Eileen, could you refresh me? That almost looks like an azalea of some type.
I could try to plant idea if you want.
And maybe a hydrangea. But yeah, given that I'm seeing them in winter, I think some hydrangea, there looks like some hydrangeas there as well. So yeah, I'm loving how y'all are kind of mirroring some of the things that you would find in nature in the landscaping right here. So we're in the Western Highland Rim ecoregion, which is, for Middle Tennessee, is kind of one of the areas where we have the greatest concentration of intact forests left. And a lot of these ravines and hillsides are forested, as they naturally should be. So even though I do represent a Grasslands Institute, we fully acknowledge that forests are really the dominant ecosystem in this landscape for this part of Middle Tennessee. And so with that, in these ravines comes a lot of incredible tree diversity, a lot of rich shrub diversity as well. Again, some of that, like the wild hydrangeas here, is mirrored in the landscaping. In the spring, you would see, beautiful spring ephemeral wildflowers, so trilliums and Greek valerian or Jacob's ladder, mayapple. This is the kind of habitat where you would see ginseng naturally. A lot of sang hunters who hunt these hills and hollows looking for ginseng. Naturally, ginseng grows in these kind of moist, forested, shaded ravines. Golden seal is another plant of medicinal value. It would be perfectly at home, like on that little concave slope right there with all those Christmas ferns. A lot of the forests of this region of Hickman County have a long legacy of being logged. And so going back into the days of the iron ore industry, a lot of the forests were logged. So what we do mostly see are kind of second growth forest, and that's why a lot of the trees in here are somewhat young and sort of small. But with time, time has a way of healing things, and so the ground layer with the shrubs and the wildflower diversity is still reasonably intact. And those trees will of course get bigger and more mature with age. Now as we continue to walk though, I love the approach here at Bask is to kind of highlight these micro features. Like we may be in a forested ravine here that is naturally a forested ravine, and that probably has been a forested ravine for tens and tens of thousands of years. In a little while though, depending on where our tour takes us, we may take us into completely different ecosystems and habitats. So it's all part of what was here historically, was this mosaic of like a complex puzzle of pieces. And you've got grasslands and wetlands and woodlands, and we'll probably get a chance to see some of that. And I've met Joy once before, had the pleasure of going to get some of her plants. Great quality, good selection. So it's cool that, you're using local species to this place.
Mm-hmm. Y'all, we just finished these steps here. We wanted it to be sort of honeycomb-like and make it sort of cool and fun. And so they just finished in time. And we just got a bunch of plants in, so we will be doing a lot of planting. That's why I don't know all of them yet. They just literally, a bunch of them just arrived. But yes, we will be doing a lot of planting the next few months. Our first journey is going to be honey, so paying a lot of attention to it. And we have a beehive over there in the pawpaw grove.
Whoa,
we'll have to go check that
cool.
out. It's very cool. So this is the honey cabin, and honey is the first structure that I named on the property, and all of our packages that we'll be offering, which we call journeys, have these names. So honey will be the very first one we launch in July, so we're working on that now. And we do have a beehive over in the pawpaw grove. Oh, cool. And it's exciting to have a pawpaw grove because, it's an indigenous tree. So we're excited that we found those. But please come on in. You can tell it's a little bit of a different style. Honey to us is, sweetness in life, right? It's sort of that theme. But again, this is, 4 beds and 5 people can stay here. We just planted a bunch of blueberries back in the forest here, blueberry trees, blueberry bushes.
My name is Emily Heron. I have the privilege and honor of being the interior designer for Bask. And I'm really excited to welcome you to Buffalo Lodge. As Island shared earlier, the buffalo is a powerful symbol of resilience, strength, and community. Buffalo Lodge is our gathering space focused on creating moments of connection, moments of healing, and sparking our creativity. In all of Bask, as you have seen, we are focused on healing in every area. We focus on healing the land through restoration and conservation, healing our bodies through nourishment, such as the food grown here on the property, and also healing through movement, yoga, dance, and we're gonna have a cold plunge and a sauna out on the patio, as well as rest and play. We're focused on healing our minds and spirit through all kinds of modalities. There meditation, sound baths, forest bathing. There are so many, I can't even name all of them. Here inside of Buffalo Lodge, we have named each space for a healing journey that our guests are going to be invited into. One of them is called White Lily, and White Lily is the journey to remember the child within, whereas Koi Pond is a journey of transformation. Each space will carry the message in subtle ways. We believe that color, texture, and art are an initiation for each individual into their own experience. Intentionally omitting stark white, black, and gray means we can infuse color and texture into every surface. Colors from the natural world calm our nervous systems while simultaneously feeding our soul. We are primarily furnishing using vintage and antique pieces because sustainability is one of our highest priorities here. We are also using wood left over from the building processes to make furniture. A few exciting play-up moments that we're doing here at the lodge are out back. There is going to be a 24-person dining table, and at this dining space, there's going to be a fragrant herb and sensory garden. On this side of the building, we're going to do some raised beds with vegetables, herbs, and edible flowers and plants so that the guests can experience seeing these plants and then having them end up on their plate that same day. That is all I'm going to share right now, but I would love to answer any questions, and we can do a little walkabout of the space as well. Does anybody have any questions to start? Or you want to is everyone curious what to see? I actually don't know how high the ceiling is, but I think we ended up with probably about 1,000 square feet of stone on the fireplace. So it is very high. The stone on the fireplace is really special. It's stone from Tennessee, actually. I would show you the sample, but it's covered in mud dust, so you can't see the beautiful yellows and reds in it, but it's really, really pretty. This is going to be the kitchen. Then this space right here is the dining. This is the gathering space. There's a bedroom and a bathroom over there. Through that door is going to be an additional kitchen that's going to be used primarily for staff preparing food. Through that door there is going to be a library and reading space. There's 2 bedrooms on this side with the powder and a full bath. And then upstairs, you're welcome to come upstairs with me in a moment, but there will be a bunk room on this side with 2 baths, and then 2 bedrooms there, 1 bedroom in the corner, and then in this area right here, we are doing a sensory deprivation room where there's going to be there'll be no natural light, and so it will be very dark. We will have comfortable beds and loungers for people to rest with a light on a timer, just as a space for reflection and rest where people can relax and fully unplug in there. So.
Moss is that one over there. This is Clover and this is Iris. And I know Owen plans on planting many irises back here. And then purple clover. Cy is very excited about purple clover. So we will have that near this clover yurt here. And then over there, you can see we got some trees in, which look lovely. And we'll have a moss garden back there as well. So Owen's working on sort of a Japanese-inspired garden in that corner area. So he's actually working with a moss artist friend of his. So, and this indigenous man named Doug, who's wonderful, and he's got so many talents. He's the one that wants to teach people how to make indigenous flutes and how to play them. He can make anything. He's one of the most masterful woodworkers I've ever known. But he's going to be involved in some projects around here as well. So, and he has lots of moss, so he's going to be bringing moss. So, yeah. So it's going to be exciting.
And then the first time I was out here with Eileen and Owen, we walked around sort of along the contour through the woods, and progressively as we walked this way, we were probably about 50 feet up into the woods. As soon as you get out of that second house that we toured, the one with the blue refrigerator, right? As soon as you got up where the blueberries have been planted, immediately you see a transition of that natural forest into this sort of wooded slope that you see here. One of the things that I look for as a botanist and a historical ecologist is to see the natural transitions of the land and have that land sort of read the forensic clues, if you will, right? So I look at the trees, I look at the shrubs, I look at what are the species of wildflowers and the grasses on the ground. And there's a real interesting pattern that you begin to see, especially as you get on this side of the Buffalo Lodge. In there, the species of greatest conservation significance all are high light dependent species. So they need full sunlight or very strong levels of sunlight. These are the species that are disappearing in Middle Tennessee. So certain kinds of wildflowers, like there's a gentian that's up in here. The Carolina rose is a small sunlight dependent shrub. You may have post oak trees in here which need sunlight. All that collectively begins to speak to what it needs to be. And in that case, what it needs is less trees, which seems a little bit counterintuitive to Middle Tennessee, more sunlight, and then through that, which you can accomplish by selectively removing sort of the trees that are not as beneficial, so that the trees and the shrubs and the wildflowers that are maximally of highest conservation value can flourish and thrive. Because it may seem counterintuitive, but actually the thing they need least is shade. Too much shade drives those species out. And there's many species of animals that have the same patterns, like butterflies, bees, certain kind of small mammals, etc. So this corner specifically of a few acres was identified as having all the necessary ingredients to being much more open. And so what you would eventually probably plan to see then, is if you were to walk into this, would be scattered trees of the right species, a lot of sunlight reaching the ground, and a grassy, wildflower-rich, and probably a few shrubs. And then I think we've talked about maintaining that with prescribed fire.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
So that might say, "Ooh, man, it's right up against the building. How would you do that?" Well, that's where like this grant that we've partnered on gives us the capacity to have a burn team that can come down and make sure not only can we manage that for the wildlife and the nature benefits that prescribed fire brings, but we can also do so safely up against built infrastructure. And especially this month, that might seem counterintuitive with the fires that are ravaging Los Angeles. One last thing, and I don't know if we'll go there, so if we need to hold out, we're not gonna go up to the top of the hill, I presume, right? But just on the other side of this, at the top of the hill, is a pipeline corridor. And in that corridor are where all the sunlight is reaching the ground. Many of those species that we want to flourish down here that are not, are flourishing under the high light conditions of that open pipeline corridor. So those kind of together tell us that if we manage this site properly, it should respond beautifully to an oak savanna, or oak woodland is what I'd probably call it. Yeah. You know, the potential to have a lot of species that are disappearing be possibly propagated in partnership with you guys, and that's all details we need to think through and talk about. But you know, this kind of infrastructure and these resources to be able to partner to, you know, go out and collect the seed with volunteers of the communities, right? That's part of a community uplifting experience. Many of the rarest species that we see, there's forest species, there's species of meadows, they need a little bit of help, what we call augmentation. And so I think about Atlanta Botanical Garden, I think about the Missouri Botanical Garden, where they have these kinds of augmentation programs. We don't really have anything like that in Tennessee. You know, so could we go out and wild harvest responsibly and ethically with permits the disappearing last few populations of swamp lousewort from Land Between the Lakes National Recreation Area? That's the only population left in this entire region. And it's at risk of actually disappearing in the next 5 years. So could we go harvest those seeds, grow them here in collaboration with Bask, have people be a part of that process, part of the collection process, part of the grow out process, part of the reestablishment into maybe this wetland over here, maybe other carefully placed sites where then these can be safeguarded. And rather than lose our only one example of that, maybe now we have 10 examples that can help improve the resiliency of that one species. But imagine doing that for dozens of species. And so, you know, even at Austin Peay, we don't have a greenhouse like this, you know. So this is really exciting.
It is very exciting, and yes, we want to do all of that.
Yeah. As a result of 2 centuries of no beaver.
And we found a bunch of creek gravel in that.
I bet you did.
Mm-hmm. A bunch of creek gravel.
A lot of creek gravel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the beavers.
There's no telling how old this beehive is, honestly. There's probably multiple queens in it, you think?
I have no
Depending
idea.
how old. Who knows what? So, yeah, my idea of just honey alone is like it's with the cedar sap inside of it and the honey it's probably a magical medicine because the cedar by itself is a medicine tree, and so just the medicinal properties that this honey could carry is probably insane. I've never seen one inside of a cedar tree before. Literally hundreds we were seeing. Every little step we took, you'd see 4 or 5 salamanders just swim off all the way up and down it. This is a cool little ecosystem here. Because we have a snapping turtle in here and we didn't, I was wondering, like, what is he eating? Like, why is he in here? Because no fish. Fish can't live in this, but salamanders can, and tadpoles can. So, and then the amount of bullfrog tadpoles we've seen, it's going to sound like a symphony this summer. It's going to be crazy. Really cool.